practically speaking, if everything is absolutely goes as expected, if everything goes as expected, you're heating the liquid, right? Liquid, and then you will probably see a plateau. The temperature, this is the moving thing. Because if you remember from Gen Chem, when phase changes, when solid becomes a liquid or liquid becomes a gas or vice versa, temperature becomes constant because that added energy is becoming what? Yeah. The added energy is becoming
energy used.
okay, the latent heat. You know, the heat that is needed to overcome those intermolecular forces. So it's not increasing temperature, that extra energy is being used to get rid of those intermolecular forces. So ideally speaking, if everything goes exactly how we want it to go, you might come across a certain point where the temperature doesn't change, but liquid is collecting, meaning condensation is happening. We good?
Yeah.
If that doesn't happen, then most of the times it is the temperature, it could be a range, 1 to 2 degree range also, when most of your distillate was collected. So you gotta kind of keep an eye on. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So it is not when this distillate started, it's not when the distillation finished, it's then the temperature when most of your distillation happened. Yes?
When I was reading the textbook, it did say that it will level out.
Yeah.
So you want to leave it for like anywhere from 2 to 3 or 4 to 5 minutes. And
That
make sure
depends.
it doesn't.
For us, it may not be that much because
Okay.
we have small amount of liquid.
And
So
then-
don't go by minutes. Go by basically observations that okay, over 1 minute it didn't change or 2, whatever that might be.
And then it said something about where it's not likely to happen, but it might evaporate.
Yes. What do you mean? The
Where-
distillate will evaporate.
I'm trying to remember specifically.
So in this setup, the distillate will not evaporate as long as you
Okay.
got water running through. Shouldn't
Okay.
evaporate. However, if you have leaks here, these two places,
Mhm.
then yes, you will lose because it never really, the vapors did not get a chance to cool down.
Okay.
So be careful, there's no leak here, there's no leak here. Everybody okay?
I know what she's talking about because I wrote it down. And it pretty much said the textbook said if the temperature like begins to level off at a low temperature, then the liquid might be like high boiling and the sample was like heated, like not strong enough. Or is that a concern in this or no?
Hopefully not.
Okay.
Because all of our liquids that we have, yeah, some of them have higher-ish boiling points, but I don't encounter that problem.
Okay.
So we should be okay. But I have another suggestion. If you feel that your liquid is bubbling, but it's been too long and you're not collecting condensation, you're not collecting distillate, in that case, it could be the heat issue. That maybe the heat is enough to bubble the liquid, but the vapors don't have enough energy to go high enough and condense and become a liquid again. In those cases, I would definitely suggest, I would suggest get a piece of aluminum foil. You saw me where I got it from. You don't need huge. You need a small enough piece of, and this part of the apparatus right below the collection chamber, but above the sand bath. So assume that's covered in sand.
Mhm.
So right below the collection chamber, but above the sand bath, cover it with, so that conserves the heat. And that allows the vapors to then get enough energy and be able to go.
Should we do that?
And crank up your hot plate. Yes.
Should we do that even if, or
Sure. I mean, there's no harm in doing that.
okay.
Yeah.
At what point do we turn off the water? I forget.
Good.
Just to recap.
Water you don't turn off.
Never.
No, not never. But
But I mean-
you don't turn off till this is hot. Because the whole point of the water is to condense vapors. If your system is hot, there will be vapors. So even when you're done, don't turn off the water till this has cooled down to room temperature.
The whole thing.
Everything.
Mhm.
Because if there are vapors, then of course we're exposing ourselves to the vapors. Make sense, everybody?
Mhm.
But when do you turn off the heat? When do you say your distillation is done? So the rule number 1 for distillation is never ever evaporate to dryness. That's not safe. Which means that you must keep an eye on it, and you must leave a tiny quantity of the liquid behind.
So never dry it completely.
And then, so leave a tiny quantity.
And at that point, we turn it off.
And then turn off the heat. But what happens to sand? Does sand become cool right away?
No.
So you have to actually take it out of sand.
Mhm.
Otherwise, sand is still heating it.
Oh.
Make sense, everybody?
Mhm.
So when you have a few drops left behind, pull this out of the sand so it starts cooling, and then turn off your heat. And don't turn off the water though till everything is cold. Yes. And does that sound okay with distillation? Any questions about distillation?
Oh, so that's
So your distillate will come here, and yes, as I said, periodically you might need to empty this out because there isn't enough space here. So once you have your distillate collected, that's the liquid you will use to do IR on. So when you ask, should we save a little for IR? Not really necessary, because your distillate that you get after distillation is done, we will use a drop of that to do IR.
So we heat it up till it starts boiling.
No, you
Oh.
heat it till your distillation is done,
Okay.
right? Right?
Yeah.
Okay. As far as IR is concerned, I think the best way for us to work with the IR would be when you have your distillate ready and you're ready to do IR. Then you tell me, and I will walk with you so that we can do the IR together. Assuming you watch the video, so you drive it, but I'll be there to make sure everything is going.
Mm-hmm.
Yes?
I was just going to say, what heat would you recommend to put the hot plate on?
That's very hard question for me to answer, Gavin. I wish there were a better answer, because the hot plates are, again, not calibrated. Ideally speaking, if I were the queen of the world, the first lab day would be calibrate your hot plates, calibrate your thermometers. But I'm not queen. So, hard question for me to answer.
Yeah.
My suggestion would be, because we don't know the boiling point, maybe start in the middle. And then if the temperature, if it's taking too long, then increase it. If it's taking way too long, just crank it. Make sense?
Yeah.
Anything else, guys? Okay, cool. So I have a lab quiz, but how about we get our distillation set up and going? While your distillation is happening, you can do the lab quiz.